are they pointing those guns at us?
Now, look, Bob, forget the questions. What you don't know won't hurt you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Stranger Oddities here, coming back to you. What a stormy morning this is. Very interesting for out in the middle of the desert, but hey, we'll take it, right? Water, and gotta love the rain and everything like that. Hey, I think we did a video on that many moons ago. And I think my man Joe over there in California really enjoys the rain, and that is one thing I do miss a lot of, is that those tropical seasons of the island and everything. So hopefully everybody's doing okay. Thanks for listening, everybody always listening. I do appreciate it. We always, we like doing this, yeah, so of course, as long as you got the audience, there's a reason to do so. So anyway, yeah, with the thunderstorms and everything this morning, it was a nice morning. Got a nice hot cup of coffee. So broke out the, we're going to start thinking about some stuff and in the future, and we're going to be talking about some interesting things. I think you guys are really going to like it. But enough said about that. You guys know that I had recently acquired the Springfield Ronin, and the Ronin is very, very nice 1911. It really is for the money. So I also know somebody else that has one. We'll leave it at that. Now they have had issues with it, and so I was kind of wondering about what kind of issues they were having. And told me that when they're working the slide on it and everything, the slide was getting hung up. It was locking back and staying locked back or hanging up that way, and then it would lock back, and then you'd remove the magazine and it would just jump forward and stuff like that, things that won't go in a battery or something like that. So now I had to thinking. Now let's take the tape back some time. When I first started getting into them, 1911s and stuff like that. Can't believe this was as long ago as it is. I remember wanting to. I had a Remington R1, and I wanted to change out the mainspring housing out of it. I wanted a arched mainspring housing. I wanted it to look very close to the World War II gun. And actually, of course, later on it became kind of a standard for me. I like the old World War II features, because in the end I found that it fits from my hand. It's better because I have smaller hands, and I do like the fact that the arch is there because it helps position the grip and everything in my hand better. And I like the shorter trigger. It's easier for me to reach, and I don't have to overstretch and then have accidental, things going on. I've found that with the longer trigger, I just don't like having to reach over, too far forward and then, end up snatching shots and stuff like that. So, yeah, I actually agree with that. The old World War II A1 features. I do like it, which is weird because it's reversed from everything today. Everything today is very close back to the original features, the flat mainspring housing and the long trigger. And I know the arch kind of positions your hand further away from the trigger, but I do like the way it kind of tilts the gun a little bit forward. It's kind of hard to explain, but it keeps you from shooting high, for me. So it keeps that edge from me, I guess, being such a bad shot, throwing them up in the air or something. But anyhow, hopefully you can hear some of that thunder in the background here as we're taping this. But anyhow, I wanted to change out some stuff on it, and the mainspring housing was one of them. And I remember attempting to do it myself because the person I called, I got a drink of coffee here. The person I called to help with that They were busy. The gunsmith was a little tied up and everything. So I was really, me being impatient. I ordered something, I wanted it yesterday. I'm a very impatient person, which makes bad things for a lot of things. Like when I'm putting things together, fitting parts, because I'm very impatient, I end up just kind of really jerry rigging a lot of stuff. So it's a bad trait of mine. But when I attempted to do it myself, I had no idea how the thing comes apart, nothing. All I knew was I saw this pin on the bottom of the frame, and I said, wow, maybe you drive that pin out, the mainspring out, it's going to come out. It sure did, and so did a couple other parts, as you can see, where the pickle was, and I said, uh-oh, now I don't know what to do. I don't know how this, now I had this thing that, now I don't even have, the 1911 to even take the range or anything. Now it's like, so I remember that feeling, and that feeling was horrible. That feeling was like I was at such a loss. I just didn't know. I was like, man, that really sucks. So I decided to educate myself with that was the starting point of me saying, I didn't like feeling like that. So finally, when the person I was going to take it to originally had available to help me out, but even he, all due respect, he's a good friend of mine. He taught me a lot, but even he was starting to slip up on some things that I later realized that even with fitting that part that he was trying to do. Sometimes the parts need to be fitted, and I remember the mainspring housing that he had got from me. There had some really rough edges, casting marks on the edges where it slides up into the frame. All you had to do is take a draw file and smooth those down, and it would have fit. But he didn't want to do that. I ended up, I think, putting a polymer one on there or something like that. I can't remember. I did end up doing it, but with help from him in learning some things, and then really I went to a surplus store on the island, and I bought an old military manual on the 1911, and it showed the schematics, breakdown, and how things worked in it. And the more I read it, and more, of course with me, that's how it goes. If I really get really hung up on something and really get obsessed with it, I really do it to the death. I beat that horse till it's down. So with all the me doing massive research and reading on it, I became more knowledgeable on how the gun comes apart, and then how things work, and what has to happen in order for it to function. And I tell you, that right there is such a milestone. If you can understand, and it doesn't matter if it's a firearm or not, or whatever it is, and you're having problems with it, if you can grasp the concept of what needs to happen for it to work properly, you've got it beat. That's like, to me, that's over half the frustration. At least for me, that's 75% of the frustration. The other 25% is figuring out how to rectify that so you can get it to work. So once I understood the majority of how the 1911 works, what needs to happen, what could cause what if it's hanging up or having issues with something. So now, that was such a leap forward. I'm not saying that I'm some kind of virtuoso at it, but I definitely know enough to be dangerous, especially to my bank account. With his issue, he's talking about that, back to my friend, that somebody I know that's having issues with the Ronin. I got my Ronin. I have zero issues with it. The one that I chose was the lightweight Commander in 9mm. And so just to kind of have people understand what the sizes are, the Commander size is the same as the standard full size, the 5-inch barrel. The only thing that they changed was it has a 4 1/4 inch barrel instead of the 5. That's it. So it's just a shorter slide and barrel. That's it. The grip, everything, the frame is the same. You could take that frame and throw a full-size slide on it, no problem. It's when you start getting into the compact, the 4-inch barreled ones and stuff like that, that's when it changes. Those are, now you're entering ones where the grips are going to be different, the magazine's going to be different, etc. So mine, obviously works fine. I've had no issues with it. Now the problem that occurred with he has a full size in 9mm, and it's just not. The slide's hanging up, again, he's telling me that pulling the slide back, the magazine goes empty, drop the magazine, and the magazine's getting, really hung up in there, and when you yank the magazine out, it's, you're getting, the slide is, dropping, like it's almost like that's what's going on, it's hanging up, the slide is hanging up on the magazine itself or something like that. Magazine's really hard to seat, and etc. So, things that I started thinking about. He's at a loss, and he tried to take it to a gunsmith, and basically was told, you know what, being it's a brand new gun, you're having experienced all these problems. Send it back to Springfield. Just get it back to them and have them fix it or look at it. Now, if it was my gun, would have looked at what's going on there. All right, so we got slides hanging up somewhere. Okay, first of all, first starters, and I will say this, and when it comes to 1911s, and this is just over the time that I have experienced things, 1911s, the biggest downfall of that pistol is the magazines. The magazines absolutely suck. The military magazines are terrible. I'm not trying to say I've tried every single one in the book, but I have had such random luck with magazines, and I've tried Colts, Checkmates, Chip McCormick's, you name them. I've tried them. I didn't know any better either. But as I realized that the magazines are really faulty, and even Colt mags, and my beloved Colt, a lot of their mags, they're not even made a lot of times by Colt. Colt has got somebody else making them or something like that. So, in other words, what I'm getting at is I'm not trying, and I'm not getting paid by Wilson Combat by any means, but Wilson Combat's magazines are bar none the best, to the point where if you have some issues with anything in your gun, you run a Wilson magazine, you can pretty much rule out magazine issues. So once I discovered that was it. I just refuse. I don't want to buy any other magazines other than Wilson Combat. I will just spend the extra $5 or $6 or $10, whatever it may be. Hey, sometimes it's more, but you can get a standard 47D Wilson magazine for $30, or you can spend 25, maybe 20 on a cheaper standard magazine. I'm gonna spend the extra $10. Let's just round it up and get the Wilson, just because you're not going to have the issues. So first thing I would have done, and now the Springfield Armory Ronin, I did not use its magazines that it came with. Mine came with 2. I didn't even use them. I left them in the box. They're brand new. I didn't even bother with them. I don't even remember what they are. The ones that I run, I have the Wilson Combat 9mm magazines. That's the one I'm running. So the first thing I would have done definitely is get a different magazine. The other thing that all the characteristics, this is what it's telling me. Perhaps the magazine catch may be not fitted properly. That could be an issue. It can be. If you're having, I don't know, I didn't see the gun, but if you're having if you're having to really ram that thing home that hard in the well, depends on what difficulty you're running into. It should have some resistance, but it could be It could be the magazine catch needs to be just fitted a little bit better, meaning that that ledge that's going to stick into the magazine, the slot, it may be that needs to just be mildly filed, just so it kind of eases a little bit better. It could be the spring in the magazine catch is a bit tight, so maybe replace it with something a little lighter. Maybe even go as far as clipping a link or two off of it. That could also work. You never know. So some of those things. So that would have been the next thing I would have looked at if that is indeed the problem. Now, the slide. If you're getting some sort of resistance or things are not, something's hanging up there. First thing, strip it out. Strip out everything, barrel, all that stuff, so where you just have the empty slide and the frame. Glide that slide onto the frame. See if you're running into hang-ups with the ejector. The ejector is that thing that rides inside the slots in the slide itself. The ejector, I think, it kicks out the shell. That could be oversized or not fitted properly again, and all that would take is you could carefully do it while it's on the frame, or if you might want to do it more carefully if it's easier. Just drive out that pin, remove the ejector, and then just kind of carefully work on it there. Put it back in, run it, slide run it, and then when it finally fits, put that retaining pin back through. So those are some other things that might be having issue. If it's not, if it runs, if it moves freely, I would have taken probably the slide stop. And more than likely this, if I was having all these issues that I'm hearing that he's having, that would have been the first thing I would have done, which was remove the slide stop and either replace it or look at it and possibly fit it better. Now, from what I looked at and from what I understand, the slide stop for a 9mm and a 45 auto is different. They are different. Can you make them work? Yeah, you can. But I can tell you, like, I have a Colt Commander in 9mm, Combat Commander, and you pull that slide stop out of that thing, and that slide stop is significantly different than a 45 auto slide stop. You can tell. There's a little bit more of a lip on the bottom. It's a little bit in different shape. Now you can tell that on the not on the outside, on the inside. So, it could be that the slide stop maybe is not maybe not fitted properly. Could have easily just gone onto a website and just ordered a 9mm slide stop and pop it in there. It might fix your problem. So it might the magazines may not be engaging it. Now, if you're getting it to where that magazine is, you're pulling that magazine out and the slide stop is coming forward, it could mean that, again, like that magazine ledge, the follower that's hitting the other end of the slide stop is not properly engaging it upward to lock the slide back fully like it's supposed to. And so when you're removing that, it's also overriding and just tripping over the slide stop and just running the slide home. So that could be, again, so it sounds a lot like a slide stop would be the culprit. A lot of times I've heard Springfield Armory's stuff is kind of oversized. They are kind of, they do. That's part of the quality. And sometimes somebody goofed up. Maybe they didn't take enough filing off of it or something like that. That could be an issue. You never know. But anyway, that's just kind of like my assessment. That's what I would have done if it was mine. So there you go.